Zayn was the kind of man who didn't need to speak loudly to command attention. He was calm, collected, and carried an air of mystery that drew people to him, especially women. But what made Zayn so compelling wasn't charm or bravado. It was control over his emotions, his past, and most importantly, his truth. Zayn wasn't always this way. His wisdom came from pain, and it taught him a lesson every man must learn. Not everything should be shared, even with the woman you love. In his early 20s, Zayn met Aisha. Enchanted by love and the idea of complete honesty, he gave her everything. His dreams, his secrets, his insecurities. He believed transparency would build trust and intimacy. But instead, something unexpected happened. The more vulnerable he became, the more distant she grew. She began testing him, losing respect for the man who had once seemed so self-contained. She compared him to others, men who weren't as open, men who kept her guessing. Heartbroken and confused, Zayn didn't chase. He went silent, disappearing for 2 years. But he wasn't idle. He immersed himself in human psychology, ancient philosophy, and the teachings of Stoicism. He studied men who understood the value of restraint, mystery, and self-control. And when Zayn returned, he was transformed. He hadn't become cold, he had become wise. Through his journey, Zayn discovered that a man must protect certain aspects of himself if he wants to preserve respect, attraction, and inner peace. From his experience, he distilled 5 truths a man must always guard in a relationship. 1. His deepest weakness. Yes, a man can cry. Yes, he can feel pain. But there's a time and place for vulnerability. Sharing every fear or emotional wound doesn't necessarily create closeness. In fact, it can have the opposite effect. When a woman sees a man too exposed, too often, it can plant seeds of doubt, not because she's cruel, but because confidence and resilience are subconsciously tied to masculine energy. A man's strength should be evident, even when he's struggling. Vulnerability is valuable, but only when shared with wisdom. 2. His full financial status. Whether you're living paycheck to paycheck or sitting on millions, your financial details are not for casual disclosure. Zayn realized that when a woman knows exactly how much a man has, her expectations change. It's not always malicious, it's human nature. Money, once revealed fully, shifts the dynamics of power, desire, and even respect. A woman should love a man for who he is, not what's in his bank account. Keeping finances private isn't deceit, it's protection of balance. 3. His next move. Predictability is the enemy of attraction. When a woman knows every detail of a man's future, from his next promotion to where he'll be next weekend, the mystery fades. Zayn learned that silence about his next steps kept others curious, and curiosity is magnetic. Reveal your plans only after they've become reality. The path becomes more powerful once it's walked, not when it's merely promised. 4. His emotional dependence. To love a woman deeply is noble. But needing her to function is dangerous. The moment she feels he cannot breathe without her, she may start to feel suffocated. Emotional dependency, no matter how romanticized, often leads to imbalance. Zayn came to understand that a man must remain whole, with or without her. True love is a choice, not a crutch. Being emotionally stable and independent keeps the relationship from becoming lopsided. 5. His full past. Everyone has a past. Mistakes, regrets, shame, they are part of being human. But not all stories need to be retold. Some are meant to be lessons for the man who lived them, not burdens for his partner. Zayn realized that while honesty matters, over-disclosure can damage a relationship. Share the past only in ways that strengthen the bond, not weaken it. Some confessions cleanse the soul, others poison the connection. Zayn now lives by these principles. He isn't dishonest, he's disciplined. He doesn't share everything because he's hiding, but because he's protecting his power. Ironically, the more he held back, the more women were drawn to him. They sensed depth, intrigue, and a kind of strength that couldn't be easily defined. He became the man who didn't need to prove anything, and that made all the difference. This doesn't mean that men should become closed off or emotionally unavailable. Rather, it means learning discernment, understanding that restraint can be more powerful than openness. Silence, Zayn learned, isn't weakness. It's strategy. Self-control isn't coldness. It's mastery. And not revealing everything? That isn't lying, it's leadership. In a world that often demands instant transparency and emotional exposure, Zayn's story is a reminder. Sometimes, the strongest man is the one who knows what not to say.